Today you'll see apparitions lurking in the woods, strange ghostly figures attempting to scale someone's wall, and even aliens peeking from behind trees. Make sure you watch till the end, especially if you want to see a gator mukbang. This deer may have taken his title of king of the herd a little too seriously. I mean, how else do we explain this mess? Clearly, his loyal subjects are not amused and want nothing to do with him. If I were a deer and the strongest buck in our herd had such colorful antlers, I might avoid him too. On a more serious note, this is just another sign that human activities are negatively affecting wildlife. Although we may not know how the deer had its antlers wrapped in the colorful thread we see, we do know that it can make it an easy target for predators since he's unable to fully blend into his environment, and the threat may pick up scents that will make it easy for predators to track and find it. As though that's not bad enough, it will also have to deal with rejection from its herd. We must do better for the sake of these animals, and we must do so without fail. What would you do if you ever run into the legendary Bigfoot? I, for one, would not waste any time getting out of there. But the same can't be said for the Russian man. He actually took out his camera to film. I guess the Russians are just built differently. He was in the woods when he caught sight of something strange moving a few meters away from him. It was a hairy humanoid creature casually walking through the woods, and it hadn't noticed him yet. The strides of the creature were similar to that of a human, but the being itself did not look human, not in the very least. Despite being very scared, he took out his camera and recorded the beast while keeping a safe distance. Thankfully, the beast didn't notice him, and he was able to get away with this footage. He then posted it online as far back as 2011 with the intention of sharing his experience and warning all who spend time in the woods. He, however, did this anonymously, and up till now, no one knows who he truly is. Either he didn't want to get picked up by the government and interrogated, or he simply just valued his privacy. Whatever the reason, I'm still glad he was able to get us this footage. All things being equal, no one sets up a trail camera with the intention of capturing mystical creatures or anything that has to do with the supernatural. More often than not, however, such people typically capture something that challenges their beliefs. The owner of this trail cam is one such individual. He had set a trail cam to capture some animals in the wild and went back for his memory card to see what he'd captured. What he saw was not something he'd anticipated. A hairy animal was hiding between the trees and peeping up at the camera. This caught his attention, as not many wild animals could recognize trail cameras or even remotely know what it was. Not even chimpanzees can, and they're one of the smartest species in the world. Take a closer look, however. He realized that the animals actually had human-like features, but unlike human, it had fur all over its body. He wondered what creature it could be, and then suddenly it hit him. He was actually looking at Bigfoot. He posted it online asking for the opinions of others, and many agreed that it was an actual sighting of the elusive Bigfoot. But what do you think? Is it really Bigfoot, or just someone playing pretend? At first glance, this trail cam footage looks pretty normal and boring. Nothing much to see, just a cool night with calm winds swaying the trees and bushes around. That was at least the case for the first few seconds until you start hearing rustling sounds, and not long after, something starts moving in the darkness between the trees. The sounds get closer and louder until a figure emerges. It's not a beast, and it's not human. Even if it were human, it was certainly not a live one at least. We see what looks like a spirit or a ghostly being crawling on its knees, and it eerily moves right past the trail cam into the darkness. Had we truly just seen some type of ghost or spirit, or was this just an elaborate prank to offset us? I'm very certain that this is very real. After all, who would wake up dead in the night just to pull off a prank like this? This video had to be included in this list, despite its age. Looking at the video initially, you might be tempted to think that there was nothing extraordinary or worrying about the footage, but after a few more seconds of watching and zooming in, you see the pale creature in the background. Nobody knows what it is, and nobody knows how it arrived in the vicinity, but that creature is rumored to have mauled hikers and other animals that had crossed its path. The locals in the vicinity call it the Rake, and it looks like a disfigured human being moving on all fours, despite a bit mummified. In this footage, however, it looked like a moose was its target, but given the dangerous reputation of the creature, I'm surprised the man who posted this in 2018 was able to stand long enough to record this. I would have left long ago immediately after I saw it. There's more to life than being the first person to break the news. Stay safe out there. The most aggressive type of animals to come across in wildlife are nursing mothers, irrespective of their species. They can be very aggressive and don't mind sacrificing their lives for that of their young ones. This wolf and its cub were rescued by a farmer when the mother was caught in a bear trap which had left it severely wounded. The farmer saved both of them, but once they were safe and the mama wolf recovered, her maternal instincts kicked in. The farmer might have saved her life, but it still considered him a threat and didn't hesitate to show him it would attack and bite if he crossed the line. He was quick enough to avoid her initial attacks, which could have left him severely injured. Fortunately, the farmer understood that the wolf was simply scared and went ahead to call a vet who came over, sedated the mother, and gave her treatment she needed. It was a thankless job, but he did it anyway. Videos like this restore my faith in humanity. Animals are much smarter than we give them credit for. In this video, we see an opossum who seems to have had a very long day in the sun. You can tell from the way it moved that it needed to cool down, and it settled for the makeshift jungle jacuzzi that had been left in its path. The said jacuzzi is a plastic bowl perfectly placed between some rocks under the shade of a tree. The possum has a great time rolling in the tub and cooling off from the heat of the day. Once he felt refreshed, he walked out of the tub and continued his day. Whoever built this deserves hugs and kisses. Perhaps we should build more of these for them since we keep damaging their habitats. Still on baths, these two bear cubs decided it was boring to take a bath simply for bathing's sake. I mean, if you can bathe and play at the same time, why not just do both? Unlike the possum in the previous video, these two have the benefit of a much larger and more natural water body to bath in. This meant they could splash and play as much as they wanted, and they did just that. Doesn't it remind you of the times when you were so young that nothing mattered except having fun? Good times. Why would 4 wolves be sniffing one spot? It doesn't look like there's anything there to sniff. Yet they sniffed the area as though they were looking for something. Had the area been marked with a scent they were not familiar with, or were they simply looking for a creature that had gone by that spot? Well, we may never know. That doesn't, however, change the fact that this is awesome footage. Not many trail cam owners can boast of one like this, especially one with creatures as beautiful and majestic as these. C'est magnifique. By human standards, no one should be doing this in public, irrespective of the time. Humans would have been called shameless and ridiculed, but this is the wild where animals can truly be free and, well, wild. If you thought that they were fighting, they aren't. Let's just say they're going to be baby owls in the next few months. To animals, this isn't inappropriate at all. In fact, they're merely satisfying a normal and instinctive drive. Once both birds agreed, there was nothing holding them back. After all, it's not like their kids are going to walk in on them. Even if that were the case, animals move around naked most of the time, so this wouldn't have been a problem. It's a beautiful trail cam footage, if you ask me. Take a look at this majestic beast strolling in the snow. If you thought you were looking at some mythical creature, you're allowed to do so. I mean, look at those ears, its fur, and even its face. If that doesn't scream mythos to you, I don't know what would. Thankfully, it's not a mythical creature, but one that exists on this very planet. If you didn't already know, what you're seeing in the footage is a Canadian lynx. I know it looks cute, but whatever you do, don't go trying to pet one when you see it. They may be cute, but they're still apex predators who might enter into a fight-or-flight response if you approach them. Stay safe and stick to admiring them from afar, or better still, watching them trail cam videos like this one. This bird went from cute land bird to full helicopter mode. You're probably as awed and perplexed as we are. Did you know what type of bird it is? Can you guess why it's flapping its wings? Do you know the areas within which this species is found? Impress us in the comments section, and there might just be a video waiting for you in our next video. This footage right here will tickle a lot of Bigfoot fans. I mean, look at it. There are not as many up-close videos of Bigfoot as this. There's simply no way that it's a human in a suit, and definitely no way it's an ape. It's got to be Bigfoot. Judging by the quality of the video, it might have existed for some years now, but that makes it more believable because editing tools have only become very accessible in recent times. A decade or so ago, they were not so popular and not many could use them. If we're using the same logic, then we can say this footage is definitely real. But there's just one peculiar thing. Unlike other Bigfoot showed on this channel, this one seems to be well endowed behind with hips and what looked like breasts on her chest. I'm tempted to think that this might be our first female Bigfoot on the channel. Whatever the case, it's strutting during the daytime, which is quite unusual for Bigfoot, and it stares straight into the camera to let them know it had seen them. I've always considered that unspoken aggression. Whatever the case, this video is a rare find and one I cherish. What would you do when you hear strange noises coming from the woods close to you late at night? If you said investigated, you're part of the 1% that would. If trail cam videos and horror movies have taught me anything, it's not to investigate weird noises at night alone. You never know what you might be running into. Not everyone, however, received this memo. One such individual was the one who sent in this footage. One evening in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, while near the woods, he heard a strange noise and went to check it out. As he got closer to the source of the noise, he pointed his flashlight in its direction only for him to have seen what looked like the face of a Yeti. Yeti have never been known to be cowards, but this particular one ran off as soon as he realized the man had found him. My first thought was that the Yeti was spooked, but reviewing the footage, I realized that it was much smaller than all the sightings we've ever reviewed on this channel, which leads me to believe one thing. It's a juvenile, and it was not yet strong enough to confront humans, especially a fully grown one. Whatever the case, the man should be grateful he didn't encounter an angry, aggressive, and much older Yeti. Camping trips can be fun when safety is assured. When things don't go according to plan, however, it can be a bit chaotic. That cannot in any way be compared to running into an alien. These guys were setting fire to their campsite when they heard an eerie noise behind a tree. Now, mind you, they were in the middle of a forest and didn't expect to have company. They first thought that it was a wild animal, so the boys threw the fire in the direction of the noise to scare it off. After some seconds, a pair of pale, tiny hands reached out to gather warmth from the fire, which was still burning. Once the boys saw it, they quickly fled the scene as they didn't want to risk being hurt, especially when they didn't know what they were dealing with. They never saw the creature again, and neither did they meet anyone who knew what it was. I believe we should call a spade and call this tiny creature what it actually is, an alien. Its big head and tiny body with large eyes are definitely a big indication that it is an extraterrestrial creature, aka an alien. I don't think this group of campers will ever leave to go on such an expedition again. I mean, would you? This next footage was taken from the surveillance camera in someone's backyard. The view seems like a peaceful night until someone or something is seen trying to scale the wall into the house. It rethinks its decision and casually climbs down. Although we can't tell what it is, once the footage is zoomed in, it looks human, but not completely. Some who saw the footage think it's a skinwalker, while others think it might have been an apparition. No one knows what it is, and no one can tell why it decided not to climb into the house again. Whatever the reason, the owners of the house might be glad it didn't come in. This is footage of another farmer coming into contact with another nursing mother in the wild, only this time it's a feline belonging to the big cat family. Like the previous farmer, he too knew it was best to keep his distance and watch from afar. The farmer has been paying close attention to the heavily pregnant leopard as it had been frequently visiting one of its sheds. He suspected she might decide to have her cubs there, and he set up a camera to keep tabs on the shelter, just in case it happened as he suspected. Turns out he was spot on and she gave birth in that particular shed. He may have temporarily lost his shed to the wild beast, but his quick thinking made it possible for us to have footage like this. What a beautiful sight to behold. I'm convinced that someone has been teaching these wild animals because the rate at which they're learning and adjusting to human trends is very alarming and questionable. I mean, take a look at this footage. This gator appears to be hosting an ASMR mukbang show. Why else would it be eating in front of the camera? If it's a mere coincidence, how do you explain its positioning and the angle at which it has its food in its mouth, as well as the way it looks into the camera? Do you think it's a mere coincidence? What about that chomping sound to make sure the camera picks it up? You can't convince me that this was not intentional. It was probably about having its afternoon meal when it noticed the camera and decided to share the experience with its fans on the other side of the trail cam. What's next? Talent shows? Movies? Drama? Let's see what the future holds for us and these smart animals. And if you haven't had enough of the reptile celebrity, take a look at this gator influencer munching on his fruit. It does look cool, but does send some threatening vibes as well. Something along the lines of, if you humans ever make the mistake to come swimming in this water, let's just say you won't fare any better than this fruit. As fascinating as it is to observe them, it's crucial to keep a safe distance and not interfere with their natural behavior. Let's appreciate their beauty and power from afar. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.